Let's talk about something, a powerful metaphor that could totally change how you see the things holding you back. And it all starts with, believe it or not, a simple unlocked door. So picture this. There's a door. Nothing special about it, just a plain old door leading into a workshop. Okay, but here's the thing. This door, it stayed shut. And not just for a day or a week. We're talking years. This gateway to all sorts of possibilities, just untouched. And this is the real kicker. The secret to why it stayed closed? It had nothing to do with a lock or a key or anything like that. It was closed for one simple reason. Nobody ever bothered to push it open. So you've got to be wondering, right? What was behind this door? Something scary? Nope. It was actually a place full of creativity and potential. But it had fallen victim to a really, really common enemy, the habit of delay. And if you peeked inside, oh man, it's a scene I think a lot of us can relate to. You'd see these brilliant, unfinished ideas, these big, ambitious plans that were only half built. And the tools, the very things needed to do the work, just sitting there, collecting a thick layer of dust. It's the perfect picture of potential that's been ignored. And every single day, the person would tell themselves that same old story. You know the one. I'll get to it tomorrow. It's that one little promise, right? The one that keeps us from moving an inch. Or, hey, maybe this one sounds familiar. I'll do it when I have more time. Ha! That is the great myth, isn't it? This idea that one day, this perfect, magical chunk of free time is just going to appear out of nowhere. Yeah, that almost never happens. And then there's the big one, maybe the most dangerous excuse of them all. I'll start when I feel ready. Oh, that is such a trap. It's this belief that we have to wait for motivation to hit us like a lightning bolt, that we have to feel inspired before we can ever take action. And so the door just waited. And all those tiny little delays, all those tomorrows, they didn't just add up. No, they compounded. They snowballed. Weeks just bled into months, and months stretched into years. And all the while, the hidden cost of doing nothing just kept growing silently. So let's be clear. There is no monster hiding back there. There wasn't some huge, impossible challenge to overcome. The only thing stopping them was the invisible force of their own habit. Okay, so eventually, something's got to give, right? Now we get to the turning point, the moment of truth, where all that frustration finally boils over and leads to one simple, critical push. So one day, just totally fed up with the excuses, the person finally reaches out and just pushes the door. And what happened next was almost funny. It was so simple. The door just swung open. So easily. No creaking, no resistance, definitely no hidden danger. That huge barrier they'd built up in their mind for years, it just wasn't real. Which, of course, makes you think, if the door wasn't the problem, then what was? What was the real obstacle here? The thing that kept all that potential locked away for so long? The answer is so simple, but it's also really deep. The hesitation. That was the problem. You know that tiny little gap between thinking about doing something and actually doing it? That moment you spend overthinking. That was the only lock on the door. The only one that ever existed. Okay, so how do you break that cycle of hesitation? Well, this next part is all about the solution. And it comes down to the almost magical power of starting ridiculously small. See, they didn't try to go in there and finish everything all at once. No way. The strategy was so simple, it was brilliant. Step 1, just pick up a single tool. Step 2, do one super small task. And the commitment, the big scary commitment, just stay for 10 minutes. That's it. Seriously, anybody can do that. And this right here, this is the key difference between motivation and momentum. Think about it. Motivation is passive, right? It's about waiting for the right feeling to show up. But momentum is active. It's about taking action, and that action creates the feeling. You don't need the motivation to start. You get the motivation by starting. It's a total game changer. And you know what? Something pretty incredible happened. Because the act of starting was so tiny, so manageable, the fear just kind of dissolved. It evaporated. So the next day, going back to the workshop felt easier. Not because of some big wave of inspiration, but simply because that scariness of the first push was gone. All right, let's zoom out a bit because this little story isn't just about a workshop. It applies to every single one of us. We all have our own closed doors, don't we? And it is so important to understand what's really keeping them shut. Here is a huge insight for you. Procrastination, it isn't some deep character flaw. It's not a time management problem. It's actually an emotional strategy. It's our brain's clever, if unhelpful way of avoiding the feeling of discomfort that comes with a task. So it's not about the clock, it's about the feeling. And what that means is that the solution isn't a more complicated to-do list or some fancy new calendar app. The solution is way simpler. It's just a push, a small, imperfect, right now kind of push that gets you past that moment of hesitation. And that really brings us to the core of it all. That big project you've been avoiding, that tough conversation you keep putting off, that skill you've always wanted to learn, that door you're so afraid of opening. I'm telling you, it's not locked. It never was. So I want to leave you with this thought. Take a look at your own life right now, at your own dusty workshop of ideas and plans. What's the one door that you know has been closed for way too long? And what's the tiny 10-minute push you're going to give it today?